What's going on, guys? This is RichaadEB here, and today I'm bringing you my PPL off-season Week 2 battle versus Toucannons and the Southampton Sneasels. So as per usual, links to his Twitter will be in the description, as well as links to the PPL channel and Twitter, and links to every single person in my front office chat. Always shout outs to those guys. So looking at the team matchup, if you want to see a more in-depth analysis of the team matchup, I do have a team builder uploaded for this week, which will be the last video uploaded on this channel. If you just want a brief overview of the team I decided to bring, I have a Dragon Dance 3 attacks Komodo, a 4 attacks Expert Belt Thunderous, a physically defensive Choppleberry Miltank, a offensive Gold Ice Beam Arcrojet and Haze Mega Blastoise, a mixed defensive Carmined Comfy, and a mostly specially defensive 2 attacks Toxic Stealth Rock Registeel. So looking at his team, he did opt to bring both the Mandibuzz and the Raichu, which I wasn't totally expecting. I definitely expected Mimikyu instead of one of those two mons, and then either one of the two of them or Tapu Bulu or Heatran, but I really thought Mimikyu would be coming to this match, but he opted not to bring it. Looking at lead matchups now, he has, in my mind, 3 potential leads, being Mienshao, Mamoswine, and Raichu, and my best thing that can potentially deal with all 3 is my Miltank, because if he leads Mienshao, I can take a hit, T-Wave it straight away, just cripple that thing turn 1. If he leads Mamoswine, he can't 2-KO me, I can Milk Drink, Iron Head, etc. just whittle him down. If he leads Raichu, I can take a hit, go for Earthquake, or I can try and switch out into my Comfy or my Registeel, deal with that thing a little bit better. So that's what I decided to lead with. I got up with my Miltank, and he actually opts to lead off with the Mienshao. So right here, I only have one player, I'm picking T-Wave. I expect him to not predict the Choppleberry this early, and he actually misses the high jump kick, which is super unfortunate for him, and I land a T-Wave. So straight away turn 1, I've kind of hacked this poor guy and put myself in a really solid position by crippling one of his better offensive threats against my team. Like, if you check what I brought, I don't have a fantastic switch into Mienshao. Comfy is the best thing I can do, and then, you know, maybe Thunderous because I can outspeed it now and that kind of thing. But at this point, it gets revenged by pretty much everything on my team outside of Miltank and Registeel, and even those two can 2-shot it from this range. So unless it's Regenerator, I basically have this thing handled now. So I decided to stay in here, go for the cheeky Power Flinch because I don't really need my Choppleberry for anything else, so there's no reason for me to switch in another mon and take any damage. So I just take that hit really well because Miltank is a beast. And here I decided to switch it up and go for the Earthquake, because it would kill from the range that he was at. Anything he switched out into, if I went for Iron Head, the only thing that would benefit me is if he went into Mamoswine, and I don't think he's going to do that because I can still take any hit from that thing. If he went out into Mandibuzz or Latias, Iron Head's not going to be doing anything anyway, whereas if he went out into Muck or Raichu, which I think is probably most likely switches if he decided to preserve Mienshao, which you can see that he did, then Earthquake would do a solid like 30% to Muck, and whittling that thing is super important for my team. It would also let me scout if it's like Black Sludge or potentially AV or Bandit or something like that. And if it's Sugar Berry, then I can pop that straight away. And if he goes into Raichu, then Earthquake will do a solid 80% min, I think, put it in range of a couple of Life Orb hits. If I get a high roll, it'll be in range of 1 Life Orb hit, that kind of thing. So I decided the Earthquake with my play here. He actually decided to switch in the Raichu, which is really, really good for me, because as I go for Earthquake, I actually get a crit. And down goes another one of his big offensive threats. So in 3 turns, I have managed to hacks to death, or hacks 1 to death and cripple the other of 2 of his main offensive threats. So at this point, he still has the Muck, which is very scary for my team, and the Mamoswine, but he's lost a lot of the power and speed in particular that he had. You know, he still has the Latias, which can be potentially speedy, but I was expecting either Mamoswine or Mienshao to be his Scarfer. I thought Latias would be more like a Life Orb attacker or a bulky set, and at this point, he's just lost a lot of speedy power with the loss of that Raichu, which is super unfortunate for him, but, you know, great for me. Here it decides to go into Mandibuzz. I decided I can take a Toxic and figure it's better for me to just Milk Drink up right here, so that I can take 2 hits from the Mamoswine. As he opts to go for Foul Play, that does absolutely nothing because Miltank is just a tank. So here I decided to capitalize on this thing and switch out into my Comfy because I can somewhat force it out. If he decides to stay in for too long, I can just set up in his face. And then right after this, I actually decided to pull a double switch, predicting the Alolan Muck to come in and go out into my Registeel, because what Registeel can do is I can get off Earthquake chip damage, or I can set up rocks and start whittling his team down. So I go out into Registeel. This also meant that if he went for Toxic, for example, then obviously I'm immune and Registeel just deals with Mandibuzz. As he goes out into the Muck. So right here, I'm not going to play around with this thing. I want to go for Earthquake just to scout out what kind of set I'm dealing with and to get off good chip damage onto Muck. So I go for Earthquake right here. Does a good solid amount of chip damage to Mienshao, and then I actually run a quick calc here. So with the T-Wave nerf, I actually don't outspeed a regular Mienshao, let alone a Scarf Mienshao, I'm pretty sure. So my play here is actually to switch it out because I don't want to be taking a high jump kick with this thing. I'm not physically defensive, it's still going to hurt. And it'll put me in range of a lot of things, mean I can't switch into things like Radiance anymore, I can't switch into things like Muck anymore, stuff like that. So I decided I don't want to take that hit, I'm going to switch out into my Comfy, which is my dedicated switch into this thing anyway. And you're going to see he's going to go for a high jump kick and land it, but it doesn't do that much to Comfy with the leftovers and, you know, follow up Draining Kiss. I will be at a reasonable amount of health. I decided to just click Draining Kiss because I don't think he really has any good reason to preserve this thing. We did see it with Regenerator, so he could have preserved it. But given the fact I doubled out predicting Muck last time, I thought he might expect that again, so I decided to just go for Draining Kiss. That allows me to get my Comfy up to really, really good health again, so now it can deal with likes of Mandibuzz and Radiance. So he goes into Muck. I decided to switch out and go out into my Registeel because it is my best answer to this thing at this point. So he goes for the knockoff right here, unfortunately knocks off my leftovers, but that's, you know, the life we lead. And here I decided to get up my rocks, predicting the guy into one of his 2 ground immunities. He actually goes out into the Mamoswine, which is kind of unfortunate for me because I just get up my rocks, but now I have to switch into a Mamoswine. So I decided to switch out into my Miltank. I should still be able to take 2 hits from this thing if it's Life Orb. So I've still a reasonable amount of health and I can Milk Drink up, etc., stall it out. But he actually gets a crit, and we see that he doesn't take any Life Orb recoil. And you will notice that with the crit it did around 50%, and I've been saying I don't get too care about Life Orb. So this is actually a Choice Bandit Mamoswine, which is terrifying for the fact that I don't have a great switch in, but really great for the fact that it's choice locked, I have a ground immunity, I have ice type switch ins. So right here I can preserve my Miltank and switch out into the Thundurus because he's locked into Earthquake, he can't do anything to me, and now Thundurus can start applying pressure to his team. Unfortunately, he still has a very, very good switch in that Alolan Muck, so I decided to double out actually into my Miltank because I need to get Miltank back up to good health so I have a good switch into Mamoswine every time. Even if I'm just at around half, I can switch in, see what it locks itself into, and then go into either Registeel, Blastoise, or Thundurus, depending on what it's locked into. So I decided to Milk Drink up on this Muck as he goes for Knockoff, which does absolutely nothing, so now I have an item. Here I go for Iron Head, actually predicting to go into the Mamoswine. Not my greatest play, but he misses a Gunk Shot that wouldn't have killed unless he got the poison, so I would have been able to Milk Drink up the following turn anyway, unless he poisoned me, which would have been super unfortunate. Not a great play on my part. I should have just Milk Drink back up to better health and then started clicking Earthquake, but you know, it didn't end up costing me anything because I'm a lucky son of a bitch. So right here I make the play I should have made the previous turn and Milk Drink myself back up to a solid amount of health so I can continually switch into that Mamoswine. So right here I see Mandibuzz and I decided to capitalize on it again and go out into my Registeel because my best way to whittle this thing is a combination of rocks and Toxic, and I feel like he's going to defog my rocks away. By going into Registeel I can set them straight back up, but I figure my best play here is actually to go for the Toxic, and that's for 2 reasons. He might stay in, predicting me to go for rocks and then being able to defog him the following turn, in which case getting a Toxic on Mandibuzz is super important. He could go out into Mamoswine. I feel like Mamoswine or Latias, I don't think he's going to go into Muck because I've shown that this thing can deal with Muck. I do have Earthquake and I don't take enough damage from his hits. So I feel like he might try to go into Mamoswine to pressure me by going for another Banded Earthquake. Now if I get that thing Toxic, then every time I switch in Miltank, even if he outspeeds, I can Milk Drink up, I'll be whittling it down slowly. If I see it's locked into like Icicle Crash for example, then I can pivot around and go back into Registeel or Blastoise. If he's locked into Earthquake, I can go into Thundurus, and all the while he'll be taking Toxic damage. So I felt like that was a better play than going for Iron Head, just in case he stayed in with Mandibuzz as well. So I go for the Toxic right here as he does bring in the Mamoswine. So I do hit the Toxic and this thing is now going to start getting whittled. So again, Mamoswine, I only really have one play against this thing, and that is to just go hard into Miltank and scout out what he wants to click. So Miltank can still take 2 Earthquakes from this range, unless he gets 2 high rolls, which would be unfortunate, but he actually goes for Icicle Crash, predicting my Thunderous, I guess, so I'm able to chew that, and now I just Milk Drink straight back up to 100%, meaning that unless he gets 2 max roll Earthquakes, he still can't kill me. So I just Milk Drink up here with my Miltank. I didn't really have any other play, like I couldn't click anything that would do damage to the rest of his team, and I don't want to T-Wave things like this because I want them toxic. So I just Milk Drink up right there. And then on Mandibuzz, once again, I'm going to go out into my Registeel. He actually clicks U-turn this time, which was his best play, but I didn't see any reason in staying in with Miltank because I couldn't do damage to the rest of his team anyway. But he goes back out into Mamoswine. So again, this thing is just going to be taking progressive toxic damage, whittling it down while I pivot around it. I go back out into my Miltank because at this point, I'm right on top. I have him right where I need him to basically clean up his team with either Comfy or Komodo. So I don't need to make predictions. I just go into my Miltank, I take that hit. I know that another one will not kill me, guaranteed. So I can just Milk Drink up right here. It does 50%, which is that max roll that can 2-hit KO me. But luckily, because he didn't get 2 of them in a row, I will be at good health right here. And again, I make the same play. I am just going to click Milk Drink. I don't care if he switches out. I can deal with everything else he switches out into. But Mamoswine, I just need to Milk Drink up on. He actually decides to go out into the Latias, and I'm not 100% sure what this thing wants to do to me, so I decided to switch him to my Registeel on it as he pulls a nice double into his Mamoswine. But like I've been saying, I don't need to make predictions at this point. I'm right on top, and Mamoswine is toxic, so even if he pulls doubles into it progressively, I will be getting it whittled. If I can at some point get my rocks up, this thing will be super duper low. So right here, I go straight back out into Miltank. If he pulled another double into like Latias, then again he's taking chip damage and I'm not, so he decides to get out his rocks to sort that out. So now he can 2-hit KO my Miltank with 2 banded Earthquakes without the need for a max roll. So right here I decided to actually pull a double out of my own into Registeel because he's locked into rocks, and so if he stays in and goes for rocks for whatever reason, then I get my own rocks up with Registeel and I'm fine, and Registeel deals with the rest of his team better than Miltank does. So I decided to pull that switch, go out into my Registeel, which is unfortunately getting progressively whittled down because I don't have the leftovers. If I did have lefties, the thing would still be at great health. But he goes Shadow Ball and that does nothing, showing me that this is actually an uninvested Latias. So it's either physically defensive or specially defensive. My guess is probably Spadef to try and deal with Thunderous a little bit better, but I'm not 100% sure on that. So I decided to just get my rocks up. It allows me to whittle both the Mamoswine and the Mandibuzz in particular a little bit more. Here I just drop a Toxic because I can't do much damage to this thing anyway, and it's for the same reason I drop a Toxic on Mamoswine. If I'm pivoting around it, then I will continually rack up Toxic damage. I can just whittle it down. Here I actually make a bit of a misplay. I go for double Toxic, predicting him to switch out, knowing he can't touch me. But he decides to just stay in. He's obviously not particularly keen on preserving his Latias at this point, and I just stay in with my Registeel and I'm like, whatever, I don't particularly need this thing. I can just go for Iron Head, get off some chip damage, and then I'll be fine. Like, it's too low to switch into any of his other mons. It's done what it needed to, it got some important things toxic, it's got rocks up. At this point, something else on my team can clean up. And then I decide, you know what, I'm going to preserve differential, I'm going to go into Comfy. I know I can chew hits from this thing because it's bulky, it is not offensive, and even if it was offensive, I would get 2-shotted because it's a Comfy. That does actually do quite a lot of damage because Comfy is not the bulkiest, but right here I just go for Draining Kiss. I can get myself a decent amount of HP. It actually does like no damage because this is a Spadef Latias, but it does mean that I stay at around 50%, which is super nice. Let's look at that min-max though, and he's actually going to go down to the Toxic right here, gifting a kill to Registeel. So right now each one of my 3 walls has 1 kill, and the only offensive mon I've gone into is my Thunderous. So he goes into Muck. I decided to switch out into my Miltank because he's already knocked it off. Sorry, I've already used up my items and knockoffs, so I can do much, and I can take 2 gunk shots unless he's like banded, which he isn't because I'm pretty sure I've seen him change moves, or just damage rolls. I think it was damage rolls told me it wasn't banded. So here I just stay in and go for Earthquake, make sure I put this thing in range of something like Comfy for example. So now I should be able to take it out unless it's AV. I probably wouldn't risk it, but now it's definitely in range of Thunderous at least. Here I Milk Drink up, predicting to try and preserve this, which is kind of a dumb play, but it doesn't end up costing me anything because at this point I have the game pretty much wrapped up. Like I have Aqua Jet on Blastoise, I have priority on Comfy, and I have a Thunderous which outspeeds all these mons and kills everything. So I decided to just finish off Muck with an EQ right here. I can no longer switch in a Mamoswine, but I no longer need to because it's so whittled. So he goes into Mandibuzz right here. which like he didn't really have any play there, because if he went into Mamoswine, I would switch out into Blastoise and then Arc Reject the following turn to take it out, and Blastoise lived any one hit, so that would have, you know, meant I could go to 6-0 anyway, because then I can just, this thing cannot touch like most of my team. And if he goes into this thing, then I do exactly what I do right here, which is switch out into Comfy. I'm going to put this on fast so it goes a little bit quicker. Switch out into Comfy, chew any hit, and then at this point, Mamoswine dies to a Draining Kiss. I set up a Calm Mind because Mandibuzz is stupid bulky and Draining Kiss does nothing to it, so I need to get a little bit more power. When he goes out into Mamoswine, you see how low this thing is. A +3 priority Draining Kiss is going to go before his Ice Shard, able to bring back to good health. I'm sitting here around 50%, and from this range, Mandibuzz is not taking a hit, so Comfy is able to clean up, giving us a 6-0 victory. That was not what I expected to happen from team matchup. Basically, he had a lot of things that I was struggling to prep for. So like, he had too many offensive threats for my walls to properly handle, and too many defensive checks for my offensive mons to straight up sweep at any point. But because of the first like 3 turns, I basically managed to put 2 of those offensive checks completely out of the picture, making it a 6-on-4 game. And at that point, he lost the things that could deal with my the walls that I brought. Raichu, for example, put a lot of pressure on the walls that I ended up bringing. Mienshao, somewhat, it did get stopped by Comfy, but every time Comfy came in, I either had to heal up so I could continually switch into Mienshao, or double out predicting Muck, because every time Muck got a free switch in, that put something else on the back foot. So if you'd been able to keep that Mienshao and the Raichu in particular alive, I would have had a much harder time with this team. But because of the first couple of turns of hacks, I was able to take out the Raichu and completely cripple the Mienshao to the point where I could just take it out with a lot of things. And then later on it was just getting off, like I basically stalled this poor man for like 20 turns when, you know, my 3 walls basically just dealt with his whole team. The only offensive mon on my team that even came in was Thunderous, and all it did was double straight back out. So shoutouts to Comfy, Miltank and Registeel for just completely walling his team. In particular, Miltank and Registeel absolutely just tanked hits from everything, got off important chip damage, just whittled his whole team down to the point where I could bring in a mon with +3 priority stab and just clean up. So that was a really, really solid performance from me. I think I did get lucky. I'm not denying that luck didn't help, but I also think I played well, like going for the Earthquake on the Raichu switch in, for example, and then a couple of doubles that I made, a couple of plays that I made. You know, I didn't get every single play right, but I got all the important ones right, and that really helped, combined with the luck, basically put Jordan in a position where he couldn't come back. So really proud of how I did this week, even if it was luck aided. So I can't actually remember who we play next week, but obviously you will see that when the battles go up. I hope you guys did enjoy, and I'll see you in my next upload.